Hello there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Cassie. I am back with a 3 cards with 1 stamp set. That went over so well this last time I did one, so I thought I would do another one. And I end up with 3 cards out of the deal, so it's a win-win for everybody involved, right? So I've decided to grab the My Favorite Things Piggy Pebbles. I don't know why I haven't inked this baby up yet. I don't know what it is about these pigs, but they just make my heart so happy. So I have a piece of, this is Express It cardstock, and I have it trimmed down to 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And I've got that positioned inside my Misti. I'm going to ink those up with Memento Tuxedo black ink, and then I'll close the door of that Misti and I will stamp those down. I've chosen this combo because I plan to do some alcohol marker coloring. I'm going to grab my Arteza EverBlend markers, and I figured since I already had the paper out, I would go ahead and stamp the pigs down. This is each of the 4 pigs that are in this stamp set. I stamped those down twice. This is more pigs than anybody would need, I suppose, which is a funny statement to say. It's more pigs than I need, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start coloring. So I've grabbed out well, you can see the colors up on the screen. It's kind of tedious for me when I think about trying to say the numbers, and I don't even know what the numbers mean. I think that's one of the things that's kind of confusing to me about the EverBlends, and I haven't really found any information as to why they are labeled the way that they are. I am sure there is a logical reason, but I haven't found anything yet. So I haven't given up hope. I'm sure I can find it. And as you can tell, I am not coloring my little piggies the traditional pink pig or even the peach colored pig, because if you're unaware, pigs tend to come in a variety of colors. And I am choosing to color my little hogs with some brown spots. I grew up in Nebraska in a small town. Well, it's not so small anymore, but it was a small farm town. I wasn't a farmer. My family was not farmers, but I had a lot of friends that were, and they had pigs and cows and horses and all of that fun stuff. And so I would go to their farms and see their neat animals and things like that. And I'm pretty sure some of those friends of mine had some pigs that were these color. But yeah, I just thought rather than do the traditional piggy, pink or peach, I would do mine with some brown spots. And I'm in love with these pigs. Oh my gosh, I am in love with these pigs. Like, I want to color all the pigs. So there's no rhyme or reason to where I'm putting their spots. And I'm sure it's not even that realistic, obviously. But, you know, we're talking about cartoon pigs here. So there really isn't a lot of realism. And so I've started off with that darker brown. And I am then moving on to this lighter peach color. Typically those wouldn't blend that well together, but it does give a little bit of a softening of the edge. And so that's part of the reason why I've chosen that pink or peach color. And then I have an even lighter color. Well, I guess it is peach, and then pale peach. And so I'll use the pale peach to draw that out a little bit to soften those edges. And then I do grab that darker peach color or orange color and use that on the nose and then the ears. And then I'll draw that out with the peach again. But this is what I do for all of the little pigs. I decided to color them all pretty much the same, just varying where I put their spots. But yeah, aren't they adorable? Now, like I said, I want to put pigs on everything. All right, now that the coloring of the pigs is complete, I did not want to bore you with all of those pigs being colored the exact same way. So that's why I skipped over it. But I am just using some reds for the little flowers. And I'm just grabbing 2, a lighter red and a darker red. And then I'll blend that out just a little bit. And then I'll move on to grab a couple of green colors. You could probably get away with just 1 green color. You wouldn't necessarily have to do 2-tone, but I just figured I would, so I did. And same way. I tend to, and I've said this before, I like to color from lightest to darkest. That just works best for me. And everybody's different, so you do you. And then I'm coloring my pot, trying to do it as a terracotta, but I don't really have the colors for that. I have the 60 set of EverBlends, and I have also said this before, I have full set syndrome, so I really wish I had the bigger set. But anyway, now I'm moving on to the coloring the umbrella. I decided to do a yellow because I knew that a lot of my backgrounds were going to have some blue in it, and I wanted to have some contrasting color in there. So I decided to do a yellow umbrella. So I've got a lighter yellow, and now I'm moving on to like a darker color. I think that's like a yellow ochre. And then I'll blend that out just a little bit, and I'll color the other umbrella the exact same way, so I won't show you that one, but yes. And then I will fussy cut all of those out. Now we're going to be ready to start our first card. I have an array of fun products for this first card that I'm going to be using. That graphic grid paper, I'm not sure if that's still available, but I just love it so much I'm going to use it anyway. And I've got the inside out stitched rectangle stacks die. I'm going to use that on some Bristol smooth cardstock because I want to do some ink blending, and I also want to do some flicks of water, so I want to make sure to use something that would go well with that. So I'm just running it through my Big Shot machine. And then I'm also going to take a large stitched rectangle, A2 stitched rectangle stacks die, and I'm going to run that over the top of that light blue graphic grid 6x6 paper. And because it has lines on it and it's like very geometric, I wanted to make sure and line that up perfectly. Normally I'd just slap it on there, wouldn't care, but I do want to make sure that that's on straight because otherwise those lines will look a little wonky. So I run that through as well, and then I'll get ready to start doing some of my ink blending. I've got my Distress inks, and I'm just going to use my mini ink blending tool with these, and I'm going to start off using the color Crushed Olive for my grass. And I like the ethereal look back there. I didn't want like actual grass, like I didn't use a grass stencil or anything like that. So my second color is Mowed Lawn, just on the edges. And then for my blue, I've got Tumbled Glass, and I start off, this is where you realize you do need to wipe off your mat in between colors. So I've got the Tumbled Glass, and I'm just rubbing that all along the edges. It's very, very subtle, but then again, so is that graphic grid paper that I'm using. I'm not going all the way into the center. And then I do want a little bit darker blue on the edges, so I've grabbed the Broken China. And then I will just sponge that just onto the edges so that it adds just a little bit of depth. Alright, for my sentiment, I decided to go ahead and stamp all 3 sentiments that I plan to use on all 3 cards, because I do have this beautiful scrap of black cardstock ready to go. And I am going to just condition that with my magic embossing bag, and then I'll grab my Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink, and I'll ink those up, stamp those down, and then I'll cover those with some Alabaster embossing powder by Brutus Monroe. It's my new favorite white embossing powder, and then I'll heat set those till those are smooth and melted. And I'm loving those sentiments. They're punny and cute. This little piggy loves you. Squeal, it's your special day, and I'm rooting for you. So I'll start assembling my card now. I've got some liquid glue, and then I will stick that down onto my card base, which is just a heavyweight white card base that's a top folding A2 size card. And then this is where I decided, I was like, oh geez, I did this on this paper so that I could do some splatters. And so I'm just using some clean clear water and splattering that all over the background. Wait for a few seconds, and then I'll wipe that up with my microfiber cloth. And then I decide I want a few more spots. I know I didn't use a ton of color, so you're not going to see a lot of it, but I did want something. And in the end, I don't even think you can really tell when you really look at the card. But after that's dry, I will use that liquid glue once again to put that down into the center of my card. And then I will cover all of my images and sentiments with some foam tape. I wasn't sure how I wanted to do this sentiment, but I do end up trimming it down, covering those with regular Scotch foam tape. I'll grab my T-ruler to make sure that I line things up correctly. Want it to be fairly straight. And then I'll peel off the backing paper on my little pigs. This is the only card that uses the 2 little pigs, because I figured it looked like the one was so excited to be getting the little flower that I had to put those 2 together. Otherwise you could probably very easily have 4 cards using these 4 little pigs if you really wanted. But yeah, so then I'll slap him down. He looks so cute handing off that flower to the other little pig. And for a final bit of embellishment, I'll grab my Nuvo Crystal Drops in the color Morning Dew, which is clear once it dries. And then I'll just put 3 dots, varying in size, up on the top left corner and the bottom right corner. I'll tap those down to make those look a little bit more like enamel dots, just so they flatten out a little bit more. And then that's going to finish off the first card. So moving on to card number 2, I'm going to grab out some alcohol inks from my alcohol ink storage tin. I have several of these floating around my office. I have grabbed the colors Tranquil, that's alcohol pearl, and then I also grabbed aquamarine and pool. And the color or the cardstock I'm using is actually matte alcohol ink paper. So typically you might use Yupo paper, but I decided to grab some of this matte alcohol ink paper by Ranger. So it's specifically designed for this as well, but it has more of a matte finish to it. And I started off by using the alcohol ink blending solution all over my background or all over my paper. And then I just kind of stick down some color in dots and manipulate it. You're never going to get the same thing more than once. And I will say, just as a little side note, make sure you are in a very well ventilated area. This is a little bit different than the last place I was in, so I don't have to use my mask this time. I have a fan going, I have a window, I've got all that. But you definitely want to make sure you're in a well ventilated area. I am also using the it's the marker spritzer. So that's what I'm using to move it around. You could very easily use a straw, but I'm pretty sure I'd get lightheaded if I tried to do that. So I'm not even going to play with that option. So I've decided to use the marker spritzer for my alcohol inks to move those around. And I'm just filling in all the gaps. I want this paper to be completely covered, so all I'm doing is finding those holes, maybe putting some color down, and using the alcohol blending solution to move it around, give it a little bit more, ability to move around. Now, I chose the blue colors because I wanted this to look a little bit like water, because I have chosen to use the little piggy who's holding the umbrella. And I want him to look like, maybe not that he's in rain, but that the illusion of water in the background. And then when I'm happy with that, I like to tap, just very lightly tap my bottles so it gets these tiny little dots all over. And I love the alcohol inks because they move whatever's around them. So they just kind of move those out a little bit. And it's cool. You can get it, like I said, you always get a different look. And when I'm happy with that, I'm going to stop playing. So I also tried, and I'm very unsuccessful always, to use the foil. I either do it way too soon and rub ink off, or I've done it when it's just too dry and it's not going to pick up any of that foiling. So this is just some deco foil. It's called champagne deco foil. And I'm just rubbing that all over that background, hoping that it will pick up some of the deco foil so that there's a little bit of that foil on the areas where it would have been a little bit tacky. And I just wasn't successful, to be honest with you. I have some specks of it, and it's enough, but I really wanted a whole lot more. Anyway, moving on, I've chosen to use some circle dies because I want to have all this cardstock cut out using circles. And I'll run that through my die cutting machine, and then I still have some of that cardstock left over. So I will grab another small circle and then that second smallest circle, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine one more time. And then I'll start trying to place those on my card base, which is just another one of those heavyweight white card bases that I have. And then when I'm happy with the arrangement, I'll just grab my liquid glue and start gluing everything down. I don't use dimension yet. And then I'll just tack those down. That's part of the reason why I allowed some of those circles to cut off of the paper, because I knew that I was going to have them hanging off of the paper anyway, or looking like they were hanging off the paper, to give a little bit of extra motion. The illusion that there's more going on outside the card. I've covered my image and my sentiment with foam tape once again. And then I tried to line it up. I should have cut off the circle, but I didn't. I think I was waiting for the glue to dry on that. And so I tried to use my T-ruler, and as you can tell, I don't get it on there very straight. But oh well, it's okay. Just adds to the handmade element. Like I always say, you got to leave a few mistakes, right? That way people know you didn't buy it. And then I'll tack down my little pig. And at this point, I'll finally cut off what's left over of the circle. And then as a final bit of embellishment, I'll grab those Nuvo crystal drops once again, And these are the Clear Morning Dew drops. And I figured since it's supposed to look like he's holding an umbrella and it's raining, I'll add just a few drops of that to make it look like some wetness around him. And then that's going to finish off the second card after I've tapped that down. I love how this one turned out. It makes me want to get out my alcohol inks and play a bunch more with those. Okay, time for our final card for today. I am going to make a shaker. So I have a few different dynamics. This is the Stitched Basic Edges. I love this. It's just a great little die set to have with your, just with your stash because it's so versatile. And then I also have the Hearts Trio Shaker Window along with the pouches because, again, making a shaker. And I was just, I don't know, over the moon to make this one for some reason. So I just have a piece of white cardstock, just normal white cardstock, and I am trying to line up the Heart Trio die. And the best way to do this was just basically, pardon my head, to use my T-ruler to make sure that it was on there straight. And then I'll just tack that down with a little bit of low-tack tape. In this case, I'm using washi tape because that's what I have on hand. And then I'll take that Stitched Basic Edge, just the one of them from the set, line that up, and then tack that down with a little bit of washi tape as well, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine. All right, now that everything is cut out, I also have trimmed down some Tiny Hearts pastels, and I know that this stuff isn't available anymore, but I just love this paper, so I'm going to keep using it. I know you guys get it. But in order to get my pouch ready to go, I'm going to use some liquid glue. Normally this isn't like the best option, but because of this is a heart shape, I have chosen to use the the Ranger Multi-Medium Matte because it's a fairly quick drying glue. So even though it's liquid, it's at least a little bit quicker than most other liquid glues. And now I'm using some 1/2-inch score tape along the edges because I want to make sure that every edge around those hearts is completely covered because I'm going to put my shaker elements in there and I don't want those going all over the place. So I'll even use some 1/4-inch and some 1/8-inch tape as well to make sure that that stuff is not going to leave those little hearts. Before you put your shaker elements in, you do want to make sure and take off all the backing paper from whatever tape that you are using, because if you don't, you will end up having a mess when you put those things in and then you try and take the paper off. Ask me how I know. Anyway, so yeah, take off all the backing paper like I've done, and then I can't stand it too much of a messy desk, so I clean that off. And then I'm going to grab some of these Nuvo Rainbow Quartz triangles. I used these the other day, and I'm kind of obsessed with confetti now. I don't know why I'm late to the party on this one. And I do want the little Nuvo tool that they have, but I just haven't bit the bullet and bought it yet. So all I'm using is just a scrunched up piece of scrap paper that I found in the garbage. And I'm just using it as a little scoop and trying to make sure that I don't have too many of those little triangles stuck to the tape around it, because that can also hinder the paper from adhering to the background paper. So we don't want that. So I'm just trying to get some of that off of there. And I'm also going to grab some micro beads. This is just some turquoise micro beads that I had in my stash. I've had these for, a hot minute. And then I'm also going to grab some dark blue ones that came in a kit not too long ago from Brutus Monroe. So I'll just, these ones came from the most recent kit. And so yeah. And then I will line up my paper on one of those corners, and that way I can line up the rest of it. And making sure to really push for around those hearts, so that way none of that stuff can come out. And oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about shakers, but it gets me excited every dang time. And I love this one, probably because it's little hearts. So I'm peeling off the backing paper off of my tiny little pig, and then I'll tack him down. And then I'm also, because I cut down my sentiment, I even gave it a little fishtail banner on the one end. I'm going to use some liquid glue to adhere that down, just to be right behind him. I love that. I'm rooting for you. Oh, I love it. I had a friend who had a potbelly pig, and that pig was so dang cute. All right, and then I'll use that liquid glue to adhere that card panel down to my white card base. And then that's going to finish off this card. I love it, and I'm just happy with how all three of these turned out. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 3 cards that I made today. I would love to know what you think of them. If you have a favorite, go ahead and put that in the description box down below. Are you liking me doing 3 cards with one set? Does it give you extra ideas? Would you like to see something different? Go ahead and put that in the comment section down below as well. I'll have everything listed down there that I have used. And so if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.